living longer, living healthier, living better than ever before. Welcome to Mountain Pacific's Healthy Living for Life, a weekly series that gives you the information, education, and expert insight you need to become an active participant in today's ever-changing healthcare climate. Here now is today's program host.
We all hear about eating healthy, but it's difficult to know just where to start. And how do you know which diet is best to help you achieve your goals? Welcome to Healthy Living for Life, a show dedicated to helping you do just that. I'm Sarah Medley, your host, and today we're going to talk about which foods are best for weight loss, brain health, and how to get that extra energy boost we all need. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Healthy Living for Life. Joining us today is Jennifer Colgrove, a clinical nutritionist with St. Peter's Health in Helena, Montana. Thank you, Jennifer, for joining.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking forward to this. I know it's going to be informative. First topic of mind is carbohydrates. So we hear a lot about carbs. Tell us what carbs are.
Okay. So carbohydrates are basically one of our macronutrients, which just means there's three different categories of that, and our foods are made up of a combination of carbohydrates, protein, and fats. And so carbohydrates basically just one of our fuel sources. It's broken down into glucose, and that's what our body uses for energy. So it's like our fuel.
Good way to think about it.
Yeah.
So most people, myself included, think about carbohydrates as being Italian related, pasta, the like, noodles, etc.
Right.
But it's not all about noodles and pasta.
Right, right.
So talk about what else are carbohydrates in.
Okay, so there's carbohydrates in our grains, so you mentioned some of those. We have carbohydrates that are in our milk and dairy products. We also have carbohydrates naturally in our fruits. So those foods all have that fuel source that our body needs, and those are all very healthy foods. There's also simple carbohydrates that will come in some of our other foods, which we can talk about more as well. And those are just more simple sugars, so those are very refined. They've taken out all the nutrient components of the carbohydrate that fuels us, and it's just the simple sugar that is also a carbohydrate. So you may hear about complex carbohydrates and simple carbohydrates.
So how does our body use carbohydrates?
So whether it's simple or complex, they use them the same way. They're broken down into fuel, into glucose, and that's what our body uses for fuel. So when we eat, that fuel gets absorbed into our bloodstream. And then how that glucose gets into our cell is from a hormone called insulin. And so that's why sometimes people will hear about glucose and carbohydrates as it relates to certain diseases like diabetes, and how we absorb that nutrient or that glucose into our system. So it can impact our health in negative ways, but we do need those complex carbohydrates for fuel, not only just for the energy it provides, but for all the different nutrients that come in those complex carbohydrates. So, for example, pasta isn't just carbohydrate. It also has a lot of B vitamins, it has a lot of fiber, and it has a lot of other things that our bodies need to stay healthy.
That makes me feel a whole lot better because I love pasta.
Yes.
So that's great.
It is good.
So we hear about good fat and bad fat, and I think you touched on it, but could you expand about, is there good carbohydrates and bad carbohydrates?
Yeah. We try not to categorize them too much into good and bad, but there are carbohydrates that have a lot more value to them. So sometimes I look at it like real money versus monopoly money. So real money, when you put it into your bank account, actually provides value to your system. It provides those B vitamins. It provides nutrients that our body needs to build itself back up after we're utilizing it all day, every day. And then there's kind of monopoly money type carbohydrates like simple sugars, like from soda pop or candy or donuts or things like that, that it does provide the calories for our body, but it doesn't provide any other nutrients that our body can utilize to build it back up. So, for example, soda pop, one soda pop is going to have, a 20-ounce soda will have about a half a cup of sugar in every soda. And so, again, you're providing that kind of monopoly money energy that it goes into your system, your body uses it in some ways, but it doesn't have a lot of value to build up your bone or your skin or your muscle mass.
So we touched on fats for sure. So When and how do our bodies need fats?
Okay, so fats are another fuel source that our body uses. It's a different metabolic process that it goes through for our body to break it down into energy source. But a big part of our fats is it's a carrier for our fat-soluble vitamins. So there's vitamins A, E, D, and K, and those all have function in our body for antioxidant purposes, tissue replenishment, blood clotting. There's all kinds of things that our bodies do that are amazing, and they need specific nutrients to do that. So if you didn't have fat in your diet, there's no way to absorb those specific vitamins.
So is there a right amount of fat that we should be eating?
Yeah, it's just like anything. It depends on people's body weights and the amount of energy and fuel they utilize, so it's very different for every person. In general, our fat intake should be about a third of our diet, though.
A third, interesting.
Yeah, about a third.
So what fat should we avoid?
Yeah, good question. So there are some really healthy fats. We have monounsaturated fats, or you may have heard about omega-3 fats. That's a big one in the media. Those fats are actually very heart healthy and can actually help lower our cholesterol and triglyceride levels. And so avocados, nuts, nut butters, peanut butter, things like that, fish, they all have really healthy fats. Fats we should avoid are more man-made fats. So margarine, artificial type fats, they all have more trans fats is what they're called, and our body just doesn't utilize them very well. And so being they're not really natural, they can provide more harm to our body.
So we've got just about 30 seconds left. This goes fast, but is there anything else you want to say in that time frame before we take a break?
Well, when we're talking about healthy fats and when we're talking about healthy carbs, really if you just eat real whole foods, you're going to mostly get those type of foods. As soon as you get into really processed foods, that's where we get into more artificial type fats and artificial type sugars. So eat your whole foods.
Thank you. We've got to take a break now, but don't go away, because when we come back, we're going to talk about how to eat right and lose weight. Stay tuned. Welcome back. We are still talking with Jennifer Colgrove, a clinical nutritionist from St. Peter's Health. Thank you for being our guest today.
Yes.
So let's switch gears a bit and talk about exercise and food. So I have heard people talk about not exercising right after a meal, or that certain foods might make you upset if you're going to be exercising either before or after eating. Talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, so it's kind of what anybody's comfortable with. And so some people can exercise and eat a big meal and then go exercise, but a lot of people, it does get uncomfortable, because as soon as you start using your muscles, then a lot of that blood flow is wanting to go to your muscles, but also it's wanting to be there where the digestion's happening. So it's requiring a couple different processes. So a lot of times we encourage people to eat an hour to an hour and a half before they exercise, so that food has a chance to absorb into your bloodstream and get to your muscles, so that when you go to use that muscle, it's fueled up and ready to work.
So what about foods to eat then after you exercise? Does that impact anything?
So eating after exercise is more about recovery. So for those of us who go for a half-hour walk, we don't really need to fuel after that kind of exercise. But if someone's doing a couple-hour workout, or even our kids who might be going to do a 2-hour exercise, it really is important for them to eat or drink something immediately after that exercise to help with muscle recovery and decrease that muscle breakdown, which is a challenge because sometimes it's hard to eat right after you're done exercising. So a lot of times we'll encourage people to drink something. So for example, a chocolate milk or a yogurt or something like that can be easy to eat and digest right away. It's also hydrating, and then an hour or two later they can get to their meal.
So talk about weight loss now, and I'm assuming eating less will lead to weight loss. Is that true?
It is true. It's in its simplest form. If you eat less, you should be able to lose weight. But there's all kinds of dynamics within that can impact weight loss. Yeah.
So talk about a few of those.
Okay, so for example, if you eat all of your meal or calories in one meal and you don't spread that out through the day, how you metabolize that can be very different. So if you take the same 1,500 calories spread out throughout the day in 3 meals versus eating 1,500 calories at one sitting is a lot different for your system to process. The type of foods that you eat, so if you're eating 800 calories of a soda and a large popcorn at the movies versus 800 calories of a, salmon and broccoli and baked potato meal, how your body processes those calories, even though they may be exactly equal, is very different as well. Again, kind of going back to that monopoly money versus high value dollar foods. And I don't mean the cost of the food, I just mean the quality of the food you're eating can make a difference in how efficiently your body can lose weight or not.
So if I'm understanding, if I eat all my calories, say for lunch, and I eat my 1,500 calories, that could impact the amount of weight loss I might incur.
Correct.
Did not know that.
Yes.
Important piece of information. And the same with foods we like popcorn and a soda.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So food quality makes a difference too in how your body utilizes that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about foods that help with weight loss?
Yeah, so there's no magic food, unfortunately, that if we just say, oh, if you eat blueberries, you will be guaranteed to lose weight. So drinking water can definitely help the whole process, but it's not, there's no magic to any particular food or beverage. So again, getting back to food quality can help, and that's different for every person, depending on what they like to eat, what they can afford to eat, what they know how to cook or not cook, if they're in a family of 8 people versus eating by themselves. So there's a lot that goes into it. But the simple answer is there's no one food that'll help with weight loss.
Darn it.
I know.
Right?
We would all be rich if we knew the answer to that one.
Yes, we would, for sure. What role does fiber play when it comes to weight loss?
Yeah, so fiber is very helpful with weight loss. One, because it's filling. The other thing is when you eat foods that have fiber in them, they absorb into your system a lot slower. So as opposed to something like apple juice that you drink and it just immediately goes into your bloodstream and increases your glucose levels and your insulin response. If you eat an apple instead of the apple juice, it's going to take a while for that to break down in your stomach and then lower and slower to absorb into your body. And so typically people will eat less because you can swig a whole bunch of apple juice down in 2 minutes versus the process to eat an apple, the fullness you feel from eating the apple, and the length of time to eat it sends signals to your brain that okay, I've just had something to eat, so maybe you're more satisfied with that too.
Well, that makes sense when you think about it.
So fiber is a big component of being more helpful with weight management.
So let's go back to the water. So you said that water might help with weight loss, not a cure-all, but so why?
Well, it doesn't necessarily help with weight loss, but sometimes we eat because we're more feeling thirsty. So making sure that you're just hydrated, that hydration in itself is just very important. As far as, if I drink 80 ounces of water versus 50 ounces, I might lose an extra pound or 2. No, that's not going to happen. But just that being hydrated can often be more satisfying and not making sure people are eating because they're dehydrated.
That makes sense too. So in the 30 seconds we have left, what's one food that might give us a little energy? A little boost in the afternoon?
Right, great question. So there's not one food that will give us a little boost. What's more important is that you're eating whole foods so that your energy level stays like this throughout the day, as opposed to not eating, then eating something with high sugar so that you spike a blood sugar and then it has a drop, which is going to drop your energy level. Keeping it even keel is the best thing.
Great advice. We need to take another break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about bone health and some other important things that we can get from our food. So don't go away. Welcome back. Still with us is Jennifer Colgrove, St. Peter's Health, a clinical nutritionist, and we're going to be talking about bone health and a whole host of other things. So Jennifer, thanks so much for staying with us.
Sure.
So for those people who need heart-healthy diet, talk about some foods that they could focus on to really improve their heart health.
Absolutely. So foods that are going to be heart healthy, again, we kind of go back to that whole thing again about eating whole fresh foods as much as possible. And the reason why is because, one, they're typically lower in salt. So a lot of times people that have heart issues really need to decrease their salt intake so they don't accumulate fluid and make that heart pump a lot harder and work so much harder than it needs to. The other is our whole foods, like our fruits and vegetables, our whole grains, nuts and seeds. They all have a lot of fiber. And that fiber actually will bind cholesterol in our system and lower those cholesterol levels, which most people are getting checked once a year at their wellness screening. And so the more whole fresh foods we can eat have the components of foods and nutrients in them that are going to help keep our heart healthy.
So what about brain health? Is there anything different to help with brain health?
Yes. So brain health is not a muscle, unlike heart is a muscle. Our brain is an organ, actually, and that organ and our organs really love fat. It actually can help keep those organs healthy. So when we talk about our fats, like we did, we want them to be very heart healthy, brain healthy fats. So again, the nuts, the seeds, the avocados, the olive oil, those kind of foods are going to be very healthy for our brain.
So talk about things like butter and milk.
Yeah.
There was a time where everything was low fat,
right?
Skim milk and the like. Talk to us about that.
Right, actually. So this and a lot of the research has been into cardiovascular health, which again, if you're getting lots of good blood pumped up to your brain, that's also going to keep your brain healthy too. So the studies that they're showing now is that a lot of the fat in our dairy products do not increase cardiovascular disease, and so or the risk for cardiovascular disease. So eating fat from whole milk or butter is okay now. It's not as bad as we thought. Again, with that being said, there's a big difference between butter and margarine, because margarine again has those trans fats and those artificial fats that are not beneficial to our body.
Good information.
Yeah.
What about healthy bones and food?
Okay, yeah, so our bones, the nutrients specific to helping with our bones are going to be calcium, of course, so you'll get that in your dairy foods. And there's other nutrients that are going to come into play with that, like vitamin D, which is also fortified in our dairy products. You can get some calcium in some of our green vegetables, but it takes a lot to eat of those to get to the calcium levels we need. So we need about 1,200 milligrams of calcium a day. And also the exercise, which we had talked about, making sure that people do exercise is going to also keep our bones healthy.
What about the difference between good bone health and good joint health?
Oh, very good. Yes. So they are different components. Our bones are a living organ, of course, and so we are constantly using nutrients out of our bone, and then we need to eat the nutrients that go back into our bone. So, and then our joints are more about anti-inflammatory eating and decreasing inflammation in our joints to keep them healthy. So one is making sure we're using them with exercise, and then making sure we get a variety of nutrients that have and it's really a combination of both protein, carbohydrates, and fats that are all going to be joint healthy.
Let's talk more about the inflammation in the joints. That's certainly of interest to me. So I have osteoarthritis, particularly in my finger joints, and I have noticed, and I may be crazy, that if I eat certain foods, I will in the morning have more pain in one particular finger joint. Am I crazy, or is that possible?
I don't know if just one food would cause a flare, but everybody's very different. So we really like people to tune into their bodies and know if there's a certain food that will exacerbate any of their issues, whether it's joints or their GI tract or whatever it may be. But a good anti-inflammatory is omega-3 fats. So if we eat foods, the fatty fish, walnuts, flax seeds, those kind of things have more anti-inflammatory type impacts on our body.
Yeah, the particular trigger is things that are soups and the like that are processed.
Okay.
So for me, so that might be something.
Yes.
Maybe I'm not crazy after all.
Right.
So what about other health issues that might be irritated by foods, aside from processed foods? Gluten, perhaps?
Right. So there are some people who have autoimmune disorders like celiac disease where they would need to eliminate gluten from their diet. There are, people with maybe diabetes that need to pay more attention to what types of foods they're eating in order to help manage their blood sugar in a different way. Inflammation in general, heart disease, cancer, diabetes, obesity, they're all pro-inflammatory diseases. So anytime we can get back to eating healthy foods to help decrease the inflammation of those diseases is going to be helpful.
So you see a lot about gluten-free diets as well, right? And so that is the reason those are inflammatory to that individual.
Right. Yeah. So it's an autoimmune disorder. So for them, anytime they eat a food in gluten, their body responds in a very inflammatory way. And it's eating a gluten-free diet actually is mostly the cure for that. It never goes away, but it manages their disease.
You have to be careful.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating topic, and unfortunately, we are about out of time.
Okay.
Thank you so much for being with us. I know I learned a lot, and I'm sure our viewers did too.
You're welcome.
So thank you all for watching us, and we hope you'll come back and join us again next week. And until then, stay fit, stay well, stay healthy for life, with Healthy Living for Life. Take care, everyone.
Healthy Living for Life is brought to you by Mountain Pacific Quality Health in partnership with AARP Montana. We'd love to hear from you. If you have suggestions for future programs, visit our website at mpqhf.org or call us at 406-443-4020. You can also catch us on YouTube by visiting our website and clicking on the Healthy Living for Life logo. Production facilities provided by Video Express Productions.